Hey guys, welcome to this video. I want to share with you a case that just came out this morning actually. And this is in the Ninth Circuit, so it's going to be out on the West Coast. And it's Tony Goes versus Allied Collection, but really we're talking about Experian here. So this is an appellate court. So we have, in federal court, we have the district court, that's the trial court. And then the appellate court is called the Court of Appeals. And so this involves the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and it says it's from Nevada. So here's what happened. Somebody had actually died, and their representative had pursued the case. And the district court, it says, granted summary judgment in favor of Experian and Silver State Schools Credit Union, that would be the furnisher of information, on claims under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So first they say we've got to figure out standing under Article 3. And they say, well, we're going to find standing. That's not the main reason I want us to look at the case. So let's jump on down to the actual summary judgment. So they said the granting of summary judgment, we review that de novo, which means as if they're just looking at it for the first time. Now, factual determinations, if the judge had considered it, testimony and made judgment calls about credibility, typically the appellate court says, well, we give great deference to that. But just figuring out the legal result, they review that de novo. So here's what we're looking at least in the Ninth Circuit. Let me get this highlighted here. So they say, when a consumer disputes the completeness or accuracy of any item of information that's in your report, the FCRA requires the consumer reporting agency and the furnisher, assuming they're notified, to reasonably reinvestigate whether the disputed information is inaccurate and record the current status of the disputed information or delete it. So that's 1681I, and we did a recent video on that. And also that applies to the credit bureau. And also 1681S2B, that applies to the furnisher. And so they say, look, the duties under the FCRA are triggered upon notice of dispute. That is, when a person who furnished information to the agency, the credit bureau, receives notice, the person who furnished the information to the credit bureau then receives notice back from the credit bureau that the consumer disputes the information. So what do we have here? Well, the consumer notified Experian of three things. Number one, Silver State accounts report zero balances. That's what they wanted. Number two, they wanted the Silver State accounts to be reported that they were discharged in bankruptcy rather than charged off multiple times. And number three, that the Wells Fargo account reflect the correct monthly balances. And this is really important. The court says there's no dispute that Experian and Silver State timely investigated and corrected those three inaccuracies. And then, now they don't mention Wells Fargo here, so either that wasn't at issue or just not important for them to mention it. And then they say there's no dispute that Experian explained to the consumer that if she still questioned the accuracy, she could submit additional documents, she could add a statement regarding the accuracy, or she could directly contact the entity. That's a Silver State. And so, it sounds like she got what she wanted. So why is she suing? Well, it says, while the consumer still questioned the accuracy of the date on which her Chapter 13 bankruptcy was reported as discharged, she never again contacted Experian or Silver State before filing this action. And so the court says, well, maybe it was misreported, but she never notified of that specific reporting error, and the court says, we agree. And so this is really important because a lot of times people do these disputes that are very, very generic. They just say, I dispute this account. In their mind, they're disputing every single item. Well, if you don't spell out what you're disputing, and honestly, if you dispute every single item, you need to explain a little bit why it's inaccurate. But if you just do this kind of generic dispute, then you're just going to get kind of a generic investigation. Now here is very specific. There are three things. Number 1, 2, 3. And Experian and the furnisher fix number 1, fix number 2, fix number 3. Well, it sounds like now in the litigation, the consumer saying, yeah, but there was something else wrong with my account and that was not corrected, and the court saying, but you didn't tell Experian about this. And so you lose. So let's look here. It says, nothing in her dispute to Experian or in the supporting documents she provided indicated Experian was inaccurately reporting the date on which her bankruptcy was discharged. So the consumer's failure to provide adequate notice of this reporting error therefore limited the scope of the duties of Experian and the furnisher, and it excused this more limited investigation. And the representative of the consumer, the plaintiff here, says, well, court, you liberally construed the FCRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act, notice requirements, but the court says she cites no case in which we have permitted a consumer prevail on FCRA claim without first putting the credit reporting agency on notice that the information is disputed. And then they just say, affirm. I mean, that's it. It's a very short opinion. Here's the take-home message. If there's something that you think is inaccurate about your report, say it in the dispute letters. Provide documentation on it. You've got to put that credit bureau on notice so that when it then goes back to the furnisher and says, hey, this consumer is disputing this, and normally it will send your letter also to the furnisher of the information, and your letter will spell it out. Then that furnisher now is on notice of maybe it's 5 different things that you're complaining about. And the credit bureau knows about those 5 things. Well, what they love to do is take about 3 or 2 or maybe just one of them and investigate. Well, when they do that, then they did a lousy investigation on the other item. But you've got to be able to show that you put them on notice. So appreciate you guys watching this video, and feel free to leave any comments, and also feel free to subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.